She was left for dead after refusing a marriage, but one human soldier had other plans. The military transport rumbled beneath Major Derek Hawkins as he navigated the dusty streets of Navarra, the capital city of this backwater alien planet. Sweat trickled down his neck despite the vehicle's cooling system, fighting against the merciless twin stars overhead. 3 years into his deployment with the Terran Expeditionary Force, and he still hadn't acclimated to this damn heat. "Another thrilling day in paradise," he muttered, squinting through the windshield at the bustling marketplace ahead. The locals, a mix of various alien species, scattered as his vehicle approached, their reactions ranging from curious stares to outright hostility. Derek didn't blame them. Humans were newcomers to this sector, and trust wasn't easily earned, especially not when you arrived in military uniform with a sidearm strapped to your hip. He flexed his fingers on the steering wheel, the muscles in his forearms tensing beneath his khaki sleeve. At 35, Derek had spent nearly half his life in combat zones across 3 different star systems. The scars crisscrossing his knuckles told stories he preferred not to share, and the permanent furrow between his brows had been earned through years of making impossible decisions. The comm unit crackled. "Major Hawkins, Colonel Jones requests your ETA for the security briefing." "Tell him 20 minutes, Derek responded, making a sharp turn onto a less crowded street. This route would bypass the market congestion and... Holy shit! Derek slammed on the brakes, the transport skidding several meters before halting in a cloud of ochre dust. Someone was lying in the middle of the road. Instinct took over. He drew his sidearm, scanning the surrounding buildings for snipers or ambush points before exiting the vehicle. The street remained eerily empty, not unusual for midday when most locals sought shelter from the brutal heat. "This better not be a trap," he growled, approaching the figure cautiously. What he found made his blood run cold. A female alien lay bound with pale rope, her slender limbs secured in a cruel configuration that left no doubt about the intentional nature of her abandonment. Her sky-blue skin was marred with bruises and abrasions, and her snow-white hair was matted with dirt and what appeared to be dried blood. The tattered remains of a light dress barely preserved her dignity. Derek holstered his weapon and knelt beside her. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, deep pools of violet that widened in fear at the sight of him. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, his voice gentler than it had been in years. "I'm going to cut these ropes, all right?" She flinched as he produced a combat knife, but remained still as he carefully severed her bonds. "What's your name?" he asked, helping her to a sitting position. "Nayeli," she whispered, her voice melodic despite its weakness. "Please, you must go. If they find you helping me." "Who did this to you?" She looked away. "I refused Krell Darvox's marriage proposal. He is the leader of the Crimson Fangs. This is customary punishment for such refusal." Derek's jaw tightened. He'd heard of the Crimson Fangs, a local gang that controlled most of the illegal operations in the sector. The Expeditionary Force had been monitoring them for months. "So they beat you and left you to die in the street? That's their idea of justice." Nayeli's eyes met his, a flicker of defiance visible beneath her fear. "I would rather die than be his property." Something stirred in Derek's chest, an emotion he'd thought long buried beneath years of military discipline and combat fatigue. Without further deliberation, he scooped her into his arms. "Don't be afraid," he said firmly. "I won't leave you." As he carried her to his transport, Derek knew his ordered, predictable life had just veered dramatically off course. Colonel Jones would have to conduct that security briefing without him. "They will come for me," Nayeli warned as he gently placed her in the passenger seat, "and they will kill you for interfering." Derek's lips curved into a grim smile as he started the engine. "They're welcome to try." The transport roared to life, kicking up a cloud of dust as Derek accelerated away from the scene. In the rearview mirror, he caught sight of several figures emerging from the shadows, watching their departure with predatory interest. "Where are you taking me?" Nayeli asked, her voice barely audible over the engine. "Somewhere safe," Derek replied, though he wasn't entirely sure such a place existed on this planet. "And then we're going to have a conversation about this Krell Darvox and his interpretation of marriage proposals." For the first time since he'd found her, Nayeli's lips curved into the ghost of a smile. "You are either very brave or very foolish human." The name's Derek, Major Derek Hawkins. He glanced at her, noting how the sunlight caught in her white hair. And I've been called worse things than foolish. As they sped through the outskirts of Navarra, Derek realized that for the first time in years, he felt something beyond the numb routine of military duty. Whether it was the thrill of defiance or something more complicated stirring in response to the alien woman beside him, he couldn't say. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty: his old life had just ended, and whatever came next would be anything but boring. The Terran military base rose from the barren landscape like a steel fortress, its perimeter marked by high walls and automated defense turrets. As Derek approached the checkpoint, he felt Niley tense beside him. "They won't welcome me here," she whispered, her violet eyes wide with apprehension. Derek's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "You're under my protection now. That means something." The guards at the gate straightened as they recognized his vehicle. Private Jenkins stepped forward, then froze when he spotted the alien woman in the passenger seat. "Major Hawkins." "Sir, we weren't expecting you with company." "Medical emergency, Jenkins. Stand down." The young soldier hesitated, protocol warring with respect for a superior officer. "Sir, regulations require all non-military personnel to be processed through..." "Did I stutter, Private?" Derek's voice carried the edge that had made recruits tremble during his instructor days. "Open the damn gate!" Jenkins swallowed visibly. "Yes, sir." As the massive gates parted, Derek caught Niley studying him with newfound curiosity. The intensity of her gaze sent an unexpected warmth through his chest. "Your subordinates fear you," she observed. Derek maneuvered the transport toward the medical facility. "They respect the rank." "There's a difference." "Is there?" A hint of a smile played at her lips, the first genuine one he'd seen. Despite her battered condition, that smile transformed her face, highlighting the elegant contours of her features. "On my world, fear and respect often walk hand in hand." The medical bay was mercifully empty when they arrived. Derek helped Nayeli onto an examination table, acutely aware of her slender form against his chest, the subtle floral scent of her hair despite the dust and grime. "Dr. Miller will take care of you," he said, stepping back reluctantly as the base's chief medical officer entered. Dr. Miller raised an eyebrow but asked no questions as she began examining Nayeli's injuries. Derek found himself unable to leave, watching as the doctor gently treated the bruises and cuts marring the alien woman's blue skin. "You're Navaran, aren't you?" Dr. Miller asked, applying a regenerative gel to a particularly nasty laceration. Niley nodded. "Yes, though I haven't been home in many cycles." "So, the Navaran physiology is remarkably similar to human," Dr. Miller commented, glancing at Derek with professional detachment. "Their cellular structure responds well to our medical treatments, and their emotional patterns mirror our own in many ways." Derek absorbed this information, his eyes meeting Niley's across the room. Something electric passed between them, a recognition, perhaps, of their unexpected connection despite the vast differences in their origins. The moment was shattered by the arrival of Colonel Jones, his weathered face set in a thunderous expression. "Major Hawkins, my office, now!" Derek reluctantly followed his commanding officer, casting one last glance at Nayeli, who watched him go with undisguised concern. "What the hell were you thinking?" Jones demanded once the office door closed behind them. "You brought an unauthorized alien onto a secure military installation?" "She needed medical attention," Derek replied, standing at parade rest. "She was left for dead by Krell Darvok's gang." Jones's expression shifted. "The Crimson Fangs. You've stepped in at this time, Hawkins. Darvox has half the local government in his pocket. So she refused his marriage proposal, so they beat her and left her to die. That's not justice, sir. That's barbarism." "We're not here to judge local customs," Jones countered, though his tone had softened slightly. "Our mission is to maintain peace and establish a Terran presence, not interfere in their cultural practices." Derek's jaw tightened. "With all due respect, sir, if turning a blind eye to attempted murder is part of our mission parameters, then perhaps our mission needs reassessment." A tense silence stretched between them before Jones sighed heavily. "You always were a stubborn son of a bitch, Hawkins." He ran a hand through his gray hair. "The Navaran woman can stay in the visitor quarters for now." "But this is temporary, understood?" I've already received 3 communications from local officials demanding her return. Thank you, sir. As Derek turned to leave, Jones added, and Hawkins? Watch yourself. The Crimson Fangs don't take kindly to having their property taken. She's not property, Derek snapped, then caught himself. Sir. When he returned to the medical bay, he found Nayeli dressed in standard issue fatigues that somehow managed to look elegant on her slender frame. Her white hair had been washed and fell in waves around her shoulders, contrasting starkly with her blue skin. You're in trouble because of me, she said as they walked toward the visitor quarters. Derek shrugged. Not the first time I've been in hot water. Won't be the last. Why risk so much for a stranger? For an alien? They stopped outside her assigned room, and Derek found himself standing closer to her than was strictly necessary. The corridor was empty, the hum of the base's environmental systems the only sound as they regarded each other. Because it was the right thing to do, he said simply. Nayeli stepped closer, her violet eyes searching his face. Your species is fascinating. So young in the galaxy, yet so driven by principles. Not all humans are principled, Derek admitted, acutely aware of her proximity, of the faint scent of medical antiseptic mingled with something uniquely her. I've seen the worst of us across 3 star systems. Yet here you stand, she murmured, her hand tentatively touching his chest, right over his heart. A warrior with a conscience. The touch sent electricity through him, awakening sensations long dormant during years of military discipline. Before he could respond, the base alarm shattered the moment. Perimeter breach in Sector 7, announced the automated system. All personnel to battle stations. Derek's comm unit crackled. Major Hawkins to the command center immediately. He looked at Nayeli, conflict evident in his expression. Stay here. Lock the door. I'll be back. As he sprinted toward the command center, Derek knew with grim certainty that the Crimson Fangs had come calling, and something told him they hadn't come alone. The command center buzzed with frantic activity as Derek burst through the doors. Tactical displays showed multiple breach points along the eastern perimeter, and security footage revealed figures in black combat gear swarming over the walls. Colonel Jones stood at the central console, his face grim. Hawkins, this isn't just a gang hit. They've brought military-grade hardware. How the hell did they get their hands on that? Derek demanded, scanning the tactical readouts. That's what I'd like to know. Jones lowered his voice, and I suspect your blue friend might have answers. Before Derek could respond, Lieutenant Parker approached with a data tablet. Sir, we've identified their leader. It's not Krell Darvox. It's Commander Threll of the Planetary Security Forces. The local government's military? Derek's mind raced. They're working with the Crimson Fangs. Worse, Jones pulled up a classified intelligence file. We've been monitoring the Crimson Fangs for months. They're not just a gang. They're the enforcement arm of a shadow government. Darvox answers to Threll, who answers to Regional Governor Maxis. Derek's blood ran cold. The entire planetary administration is corrupt, and your Nevaran woman is at the center of it somehow. Jones fixed him with a penetrating stare. I need to know what she knows, Hawkins. Now. Derek sprinted back to the visitor quarters, his heart hammering against his ribs. The door to Nayeli's room stood ajar, and for a terrible moment, he feared the worst, until he spotted her gathering supplies from a storage locker. We need to move, she said without preamble. They've come for me. Who are you really? Derek demanded, blocking her path. Why is the planetary government willing to attack a Terran military base to get you back? Nayeli's violet eyes flashed. There's no time. Make time. His voice was steel. She exhaled sharply. My name is Nayeli Varan. My father was the Nevaran ambassador to this world before Governor Maxis seized power 3 cycles ago. My father discovered evidence of Maxis's corruption, resource theft, slave trading, weapons dealing. Before he could transmit the evidence to the Galactic Council, he was assassinated. And you have this evidence? She tapped her temple. Encrypted in a neural implant. Nevaran technology, undetectable by standard scans. I've been hiding among the local population, gathering more proof. When Darvox proposed marriage, he wasn't looking for a bride. He was following orders to capture me. A distant explosion rocked the building. Derek's comm unit crackled with reports of defenders falling back from the east gate. "We need to get you off base," he decided. "There's a Navaran refugee settlement in the Crimson Canyons. If we can reach them..." "They'll help us," Nayeli finished. "My father was beloved among our people." Derek led her through service corridors toward the motor pool, avoiding the main hallways where fighting had broken out. The sounds of energy weapons and shouted orders echoed through the base. "Major Hawkins," Colonel Jones' voice came through his comm. "I'm authorizing Operation Sundown. Coordinates and authentication codes are being transmitted to your personal device." Derek checked his wrist computer, eyes widening at the information displayed. "Sir, this is a deep cover intelligence operation." "Correct. We've been building a case against Governor Maxis for months. Your Navaran woman just handed us the missing piece. Get her to the refugee settlement and make contact with our embedded operative, Agent Calloway. He'll help you set up the sting." "Copy that," Derek replied, guiding Nayeli toward a side exit where an unmarked transport waited. As they reached the vehicle, a blast of energy fire struck the wall beside them. Derek shoved Nayeli behind the transport, drawing his sidearm in one fluid motion. 3 black-clad figures advanced through the smoke, weapons raised. Derek fired twice, dropping 2 attackers. The third took cover behind a storage container. "Get in the transport!" he shouted to Nayeli, providing covering fire as she scrambled into the passenger seat. The remaining attacker lobbed a stun grenade. Derek dove into the driver's seat as it detonated, the concussive force rocking the vehicle. He gunned the engine, crashing through the partially open gate and onto the desert road beyond. "Are you hit?" Nayeli's hands moved over his shoulders, checking for injuries. "I'm fine," he assured her, though his ears were ringing from the blast. "We need to reach the canyons before nightfall." As they sped across the barren landscape, pursuit vehicles appeared on the horizon behind them. Derek pushed the transport to its limits, taking them off-road into rocky terrain where the heavier military vehicles would struggle to follow. "You risked everything for me," Nayeli said softly, her hand finding his on the gearshift. "Why?" Derek glanced at her, struck by how the golden light of the setting suns illuminated her features. "Started as duty, now it's something else." The air between them thickened with unspoken tension. Nayeli's fingers intertwined with his, her touch sending electricity through his body. "In my culture," she murmured, "a life debt can only be repaid through eternal devotion." "Is that what this is?" he asked, voice rough with emotion. "A debt?" She leaned closer, her breath warm against his neck. "No! This is something my people and yours share. Attraction that defies logic or circumstance." Their eyes met briefly before Derek had to return his attention to the treacherous terrain. But that momentary connection spoke volumes. Desire, respect, and something deeper taking root between them. As the transport crested a ridge, the Crimson Canyons came into view. Magnificent redstone formations stretching toward the horizon. Hidden among them, according to intelligence reports, was the largest settlement of Navaran refugees on the planet. "We'll find sanctuary there," Nayeli said, pointing to a particular formation shaped like a spire. "And allies." Derek checked the rearview display. Their pursuers had fallen back but hadn't given up. "And then?" "Then," she said with newfound determination, "we bring down a corrupt government and free 2 species from tyranny." As they descended into the canyon labyrinth, the last rays of sunlight caught Nayeli's white hair, creating a halo effect that took Derek's breath away. Whatever came next, he knew with absolute certainty that his fate was now inextricably linked with hers, not just by duty or mission parameters, but by something far more powerful and ancient than either of their species could fully comprehend. The Navaran refugee settlement was ingeniously concealed within the natural formations of the Crimson Canyons. As Derek and Nayeli approached, what appeared to be solid rock walls shimmered and revealed hidden entrances. Advanced camouflage technology beyond anything in the Terran arsenal. Navaran sentries emerged from concealed positions, their blue skin darker than Nayeli's, marked with ceremonial tattoos that identified their clan lineages. They lowered their weapons upon recognizing her. "Lady Varan lives," one whispered in awe, dropping to one knee. The others quickly followed suit. Derek raised an eyebrow at Nayeli. "Lady," she smiled sheepishly. I may have omitted certain details about my heritage. Your father wasn't just an ambassador, was he? He was High Counselor Varan, head of the Navaran Diplomatic Corps. She squared her shoulders with newfound confidence, and I am his heir. The sentries escorted them through a series of tunnels illuminated by bioluminescent fungi that cast an ethereal blue glow across the stone walls. Navaran refugees stopped their activities to bow as Nayeli passed, murmuring reverently in their native language. "What are they saying?" Derek asked. "They call me the Promise," she translated, discomfort evident in her voice. "It's complicated." They were led to a central chamber where a council of elders awaited. At their center stood a dignified Navaran male with elaborate silver markings across his azure skin. "Elder Toran," Nayeli greeted him with a formal gesture. "The daughter returns in our darkest hour," Toran replied, his eyes shifting to Derek, "with a human protector no less." "Major Derek Hawkins, a Terran Expeditionary Force." Derek introduced himself with a crisp military bow. Toran studied him with ancient eyes. "The first human to enter our sanctuary. These are indeed unprecedented times." After Nayeli explained their situation, Elder Toran led them deeper into the canyon complex, to a chamber that appeared to predate the settlement by centuries. Intricate glyphs covered the walls, and at the center stood a pedestal supporting a device that resembled a metallic lotus blossom. "The Heart of Navara," Toran explained, "an ancient defensive system created during the War of Shadows. When activated, it generates a field that neutralizes energy weapons and disrupts communication systems within a 50-kilometer radius." "That would level the playing field against Maxis's forces," Derek observed, circling the device with professional interest. "It requires the blood of the royal lineage to activate," Toran continued. "Lady Varan's blood." Nayeli nodded solemnly. "I'm prepared to do what's necessary." As they discussed activation protocols, and Derek's comm unit crackled to life. A priority override from Terran Command. "Patching through an incoming transmission from Governor Maxis," announced a technician's voice. The holographic image of Governor Maxis materialized, a tall, gaunt alien with mottled gray skin and eyes like polished obsidian. His thin lips curved into what passed for a smile among his species. "Major Hawkins," he began, his voice unnaturally smooth, "you've taken something that belongs to me." "People don't belong to anyone," Derek replied coldly. Maxis's smile widened. "Noble sentiments from a species still wet behind the ears in galactic terms. Nevertheless, I'll be direct. Return the Varan female within 48 hours, or I will authorize orbital bombardment of the Crimson Canyons." "You'd risk interplanetary war with Earth?" Derek challenged. "A regrettable mining accident in an unstable region," Maxis countered. "Tragic, but hardly worth diplomatic incident, especially when the only witnesses will be unavailable for comment." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a tense silence in the chamber. "He's bluffing," Derek said, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "He is not," Elder Toran replied gravely. "Maxis has destroyed entire settlements to protect his secrets." Nayeli's face hardened with resolve. "Then we have 48 hours to activate the heart and transmit my evidence to the Galactic Council." "The activation ritual is complex," Toran cautioned. "It requires preparation, meditation, and—" he glanced uncomfortably at Derek, "certain purification rites that are sacred to our people." "I'll give you privacy," Derek offered, turning to leave. "No!" Nayeli caught his arm. "The ritual requires a witness, someone who stands as protector." Her violet eyes held his. "I choose you." Elder Toran cleared his throat. "This is unprecedented. The witness is traditionally a life-bonded mate." Heat rose to Derek's face as he realized the implications. "I don't want to violate your traditions." "Our traditions are adaptable," Nayeli replied, her fingers tracing a pattern on his wrist that sent shivers up his spine. "And there is no one I trust more." That evening, Derek found himself in Nayeli's private quarters, a small but elegantly appointed chamber carved into the canyon wall. She had changed from her borrowed military fatigues into traditional Navaran robes that accentuated the graceful curves of her body. "Elder Toran explained the ritual?" she asked, lighting aromatic candles around the room. "Parts of it," Derek admitted, Though I suspect he was selective in his explanation. Nayeli laughed, the sound like silver bells in the intimate space. The elders are traditional, but not foolish. They recognize what exists between us. She moved closer, her robes whispering against the stone floor. In Navaran culture, the joining of bodies is considered a sacred exchange of energy, a completion of spiritual circuits. On Earth, we have similar concepts, Derek said, his voice husky as she placed her hands on his chest. Though we've buried them under layers of complexity. Perhaps that's why humans fascinate me, she murmured, her face tilted up toward his. You feel so deeply, yet pretend not to. You build walls around your hearts, then celebrate those who breach them. Derek's hands found her waist, the fabric impossibly soft beneath his calloused fingers. Is that what you're doing? Breaching my defenses? I breached them the moment you found me in the street, she whispered. The question is whether you're brave enough to acknowledge it. Their lips met in a kiss that transcended species. Tender at first, then hungry with shared need. Derek marveled at how familiar she felt in his arms despite her alien physiology, how perfectly they seemed to fit together. When they parted breathless, Nayeli's eyes glowed with an inner light that illuminated the dimness. The purification ritual begins at dawn, she said softly. Tonight is for preparation. As clothing gave way to exploration and whispered discoveries, Derek realized he had crossed a threshold from which there was no return and found he had no desire to go back. Whatever dangers awaited them in the coming hours, this moment of connection would sustain him through the trials ahead. Dawn broke with an amber glow that filtered through the settlement's hidden skylights. Derek awoke to find Nayeli already dressed in ceremonial attire, a form-fitting garment of silvery material that seemed to capture and reflect the light around her. Her white hair was elaborately braided with tiny blue gemstones that matched her skin. You look... Derek searched for words as he rose from the sleeping platform. Like a proper Navaran royal, she suggested with a smile that was both shy and knowing after their night together. Like something out of a dream, he corrected, pulling her into his arms. The memory of their shared intimacy hung between them, a newfound connection that transcended their biological differences. Last night was... Nayeli began, her fingers tracing the contours of his face. Incredible, Derek finished. Different from human women, but in all the right ways. She laughed softly. The elders would be scandalized to hear that the sacred energy exchange was incredible. Is that what we're calling it? He raised an eyebrow playfully. Among other things. Her expression grew serious. Derek, what happened between us? It means something different to my people than casual physical intimacy. The sharing of life energy is... I know, he said gently. And it wasn't casual for me either. A chime sounded, signaling the hour of the ritual. Nayeli stepped back reluctantly. We should go. The activation process will take several hours, and Maxis won't wait for the full deadline if he can help it. The heart chamber had been transformed overnight. Dozens of bioluminescent lanterns cast a blue-white glow over the ancient walls, and Navaran elders stood in a ceremonial circle around the lotus-like device. Elder Turan approached as they entered, his eyes moving between them with knowing perception. The bond has been formed, he observed, nodding approvingly. It will strengthen the activation. Derek felt his face warm, realizing that their intimate connection was apparently visible to the elders' perceptive eyes. Navaran customs regarding privacy were clearly different from human ones. The ritual began with Nayeli taking position before the heart. Derek stood at her side as witness and protector, following Elder Torn's instructions to place his hands on specific points of the device when indicated. The Navaran language flowed around him, musical and complex, as the elders chanted ancient phrases. Halfway through the ceremony, alarms echoed through the chamber. Perimeter breach, a young Navaran guard shouted, bursting into the sacred space. Multiple infiltrators detected in the eastern tunnels. Elder Toran's expression darkened. Maxis isn't waiting for his deadline. The ritual cannot be interrupted once begun. The consequences could be catastrophic. Derek's military training kicked in. How many defenders do you have? 24 warriors, but they are not soldiers, the guard admitted. I need a map of the tunnels and any weapons you can spare, Derek decided. I'll coordinate your defenders. Nayeli gripped his arm. "Derek, no!" "You have to complete this ritual," he insisted. "I'll buy you the time you need." Their eyes locked in silent communication, the bond forged between them conveying what words couldn't. Finally, she nodded, pressing her forehead briefly against his in a Navaran gesture of affection. "Return to me, warrior," she whispered. "Count on it, princess," he replied with a wink that made her smile despite the danger. Within minutes, Derek had organized the Navaran defenders into 3 tactical units, positioning them at key choke points in the tunnel system. The settlement's ancient designers had created an ingenious defensive layout with narrow passages that negated the advantage of superior numbers. "Remember," he instructed the blue-skinned warriors, "these infiltrators will have military-grade weapons in training. Use the tunnels to your advantage. Hit and fade. Don't stand and fight." The first contact came 15 minutes later. Silent, efficient killers in matte black armor moving through the shadows. Derek's improvised early warning system, simple tripwires connected to chimes, gave them just enough warning. The ensuing firefight was brief but intense. Derek's combat experience proved decisive as he directed the Navaran defenders to harry the infiltrators from multiple angles, never presenting a fixed target. His own marksmanship accounted for 3 of the enemy, clean shots that found the gaps in their advanced armor. "They're trying to flank us through the lower tunnel," reported a Navaran scout, his blue skin darkened with dust and sweat. Derek consulted the rough map. "Saw that passage narrows at the mineral springs. Set an ambush there. Use the steam vents to mask your heat signatures." As the battle progressed through the twisting tunnels, Derek found himself gaining a new respect for the Navaran warriors. What they lacked in formal training, they made up for an intimate knowledge of their environment and fierce determination to protect their people. A particularly vicious skirmish left Derek separated from his unit, pinned down by 2 infiltrators with superior position. As energy bolts scorched the stone around him, he spotted a narrow crevice in the tunnel wall, barely wide enough for a human to squeeze through. Making his decision, Derek fired a covering burst and dove for the opening. The tight passage scraped his shoulders raw as he forced his way through, emerging behind his attackers. The look of shock on their alien faces as he appeared was almost comical, right before his precise shots dropped them both. "Humans," he muttered, checking their equipment, "always finding the back door." The infiltrators carried advanced comm equipment, likely to coordinate the attack and report on the settlement's defenses for the coming bombardment. Derek appropriated a comm unit, tuning it to the enemy frequency. "No sign of the heart device," a voice was reporting. "Resistance is heavier than expected. We've lost contact with teams 2 and 4. "Find it," came the cold reply. Commander Threll himself. "Governor Maxis wants it destroyed before the orbital strike. No evidence can remain." Derek smiled grimly. They didn't know the exact location of the heart chamber, which meant they hadn't breached the inner sanctum yet. Fighting his way back to his defenders, Derek reorganized their formation to create a defensive perimeter around the approaches to the sacred chamber. The Navarans fought with renewed vigor under his leadership, their natural agility and knowledge of the terrain, multiplied by his tactical acumen. 3 hours into the battle, the infiltration force began to falter. Derek had whittled them down through ambushes and strategic retreats, turning the labyrinthine tunnels into a deadly maze for the invaders. As he dispatched the last of a 3-man team, a massive tremor shook the entire canyon complex. Dust and small stones rained from the ceiling as a wave of energy pulsed through the air, momentarily disrupting his captured comm unit and sending a tingling sensation across his skin. The heart had activated. Derek sprinted back toward the sacred chamber, hope and concern warring in his chest. The ritual was complete, but what had it cost Nayeli to perform it under such pressure? Derek burst into the heart chamber to find Nayeli slumped against the pedestal, her silvery ceremonial garment now stained with rivulets of blue blood from a precise incision on her palm. Elder Torrens supported her as other elders tended to the now pulsing heart device, which emitted waves of iridescent energy. "Nayeli!" Derek rushed to her side, cradling her face in his hands. Her violet eyes fluttered open, exhaustion evident in their depths, but a smile of triumph curved her lips. "It worked," she whispered. "The heart is awakened." A tremendous boom shook the canyon, followed by another and then silence. Elder Turan's eyes widened in astonishment. "The ancient defense grid," he breathed. "It lives again." A young Navaran scout rushed in, excitement overriding protocol. "The orbital platform, it's destroyed. The heart-activated planetary defenses we didn't even know existed." Derek helped Nayeli to her feet, supporting her weight against his side. "Can you access your neural implant now? We need to transmit your evidence while Maxis is reeling." "The transmission chamber is this way," Elder Toran directed, leading them through a passage that opened into a room filled with technology that seemed to blend the ancient and modern, gleaming consoles emerging from stone as if they had grown there naturally. Nayeli placed her bloodied palm on a central console, closing her eyes in concentration. The machines hummed to life, responding to her genetic signature. "Uploading to the Galactic Council's secure channels," she confirmed, her voice strengthening. "Transmission time, 8 minutes." Derek's captured comm unit suddenly crackled with frantic chatter. "Orbital platform destroyed. Activating protocol ashfall immediately. All units evacuate to safe distance. Repeat, protocol ashfall is now active." "What's protocol ashfall?" Derek demanded, a cold feeling settling in his gut. Elder Toran accessed the settlement's monitoring systems. Holographic displays showed massive movement in Navarra City, military transports deploying devices at key infrastructure points. "Thermal signatures indicate explosive devices," the Elder reported grimly. "Maxis is implementing a scorched earth policy. He's going to destroy the entire city rather than face justice." Nayeli realized, horror evident in her voice. "Thousands of innocent civilians." Derek's military training kicked in. "How long until your transmission completes?" 6 minutes remaining." "And how long until we can expect a Galactic Council response?" Elder Toran shook his head. "Even at maximum speed, their nearest peacekeeping force is hours away." Derek made a swift decision. "I need to contact Colonel Jones. The Terran forces can mobilize immediately. They're already in the city." Using the Navaran communication array, Derek established a secure link to the Terran base. Colonel Jones appeared on screen, his expression grim but determined. "Hawkins, I was about to send a search party for your remains." "Good to see you breathing." "No time for pleasantries, sir. Maxis has initiated something called Protocol Ashfall, explosive devices throughout the city. We've destroyed his orbital platform and are transmitting evidence of his crimes to the Galactic Council, but we need immediate intervention to prevent mass casualties." Jones nodded sharply. "Already on it. We detected the explosives being deployed and have teams moving to neutralize them, but we're stretched thin. Maxis has barricaded himself in the governor's compound with Commander Threll and his elite guard." "The heart of Navarra has neutralized their energy weapons," Derek informed him. "They'll be limited to projectile and melee weapons within the city limits." A predatory smile spread across Jones's weathered face. "Now that evens the odds. Terran forces excel at old-fashioned combat." "I'm coming to you," Derek decided. "I know Threll's tactics. I've been fighting his men for hours." "Negative, Major. You're too far out. I can get him there," Nayeli interrupted, stepping into view. The activation of the heart revealed ancient transport tunnels beneath the city. They lead directly to the central district. Jones assessed her with a calculating gaze. "Lady Varan, I presume? Your evidence is proving quite valuable. Very well. Rendezvous at these coordinates in 90 minutes. We'll breach the compound together." As the transmission ended, Nayeli turned to Derek, determination replacing her earlier exhaustion. "The tunnels are treacherous, and they haven't been used in generations." "Then we'd better move quickly," Derek replied, checking his weapons. "Your transmission?" "Complete. The Galactic Council has acknowledged receipt and is dispatching peacekeepers." She placed her hand on his arm. "Derek, you don't have to do this. You have already risked everything for me, for my people." He covered her hand with his own, feeling the connection between them pulse like a living thing. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about doing what's right. It's about showing Maxis and his kind that humans don't stand by while innocents are threatened." Her expression softened, and she rose on tiptoes to press her lips against his in a kiss that carried the weight of everything they'd shared. "This is why my people find humans so remarkable," she murmured against his mouth. "Your species is young, yet you possess such clarity of purpose." Elder Torin approached with a small contingent of Navaran warriors. We will accompany you through the tunnels. Our people have suffered under Maxis long enough. It is time we fought alongside our human allies. The ancient transport tunnels were marvels of engineering. Smooth-walled passages large enough for small vehicles, illuminated by the same bioluminescent fungi that lit the settlement. As they moved swiftly through the network, Derek and Niley found themselves at the head of the column, their shoulders brushing in the confined space. When this is over, Derek began, his voice low enough for only her to hear. What happens to us? Niley's steps faltered momentarily. What do you want to happen? I'm not good at diplomatic phrasing, he admitted with a half smile, but last night wasn't just about the ritual for me. What we shared, what we've been through together, it means something. In Navaran tradition, she replied carefully, when a royal bonds with another, it is considered a life commitment. My people would expect me to take my place as their leader, with my chosen consort at my side. Consort, huh? Derek raised an eyebrow, a teasing glint in his eyes despite the gravity of their situation. Sounds fancy. It would mean leaving your military service, she cautioned, becoming part of a different world. Derek's hand found hers in the semi-darkness. I think I started down that path the moment I found you in the street. The warmth of his touch sent a cascade of sensations through Nayeli's body, rekindling the intimate connection they'd shared the previous night. Before she could respond, a scout returned with news that they were approaching the exit point near the governor's compound. As they prepared to emerge into the city, Derek pulled Nayeli into a shadowed alcove for one final moment alone. Whatever happens up there, he said intently, know that She pressed her fingers to his lips. Tell me after we win, she whispered. Give us both something to fight for. Their eyes held a promise more binding than words as they rejoined the others, ready to face whatever awaited them in the final confrontation with Governor Maxis and his forces. The governor's compound loomed against the amber sky, its once imposing security measures now compromised by the heart of Navarra's energy-dampening field. Colonel Jones and his Terran strike team awaited Derek's arrival at the rendezvous point, a maintenance tunnel just outside the compound's western wall. Cutting it close, Major, Jones remarked as Derek emerged with Nayeli and the Navaran warriors. Traffic was hell, sir, Derek replied with the gallows humor typical of soldiers before battle. Jones snorted, then turned serious as he assessed their combined force. Maxis has 30 elite guards inside, all armed with projectile weapons. We've neutralized most of the explosives throughout the city, but there are reports of devices inside the compound itself. A final insurance policy, Niley surmised. If he can't rule, no one will. Derek studied the compound schematics on Jones's tactical display. Standard frontal assault won't work. Too many choke points where they can concentrate fire. My people can help, Nayeli offered, stepping forward. Navarans possess natural climbing abilities that humans lack. We could scale the eastern wall and create a diversion. Derek considered this, then nodded. Two-pronged attack. The Navarans draw attention to the east, while Terran forces breach from the west and north. And what about the explosives? Jones asked. I've studied Maxis's security protocols, Nayeli replied. The detonation system will be in his private chambers, and I can disable it. Derek frowned. That puts you in the most dangerous position. It's my world, she said simply. My responsibility. Their eyes met in silent communication, concern warring with respect. Finally, Derek nodded. I'll go with you. The plan came together with remarkable efficiency, a testament to how quickly the humans and Navarans had learned to work together. As the Navaran warriors scaled the eastern wall with astonishing agility, drawing the guards' attention and fire, Terran forces breached the western wall entrance with tactical precision. Derek and Nayeli, accompanied by a small mixed team of human and Navaran specialists, infiltrated through a service entrance that Nayeli's intelligence had identified. The corridors echoed with distant gunfire as the diversionary attack served their purpose. This way, Nayeli whispered, leading them through the labyrinthine hallways toward the governor's private wing. They encountered minimal resistance until they reached the antechamber to Maxis's quarters. Commander Threll stood waiting, flanked by 4 guards with heavy projectile rifles. Lady Varan, Threll sneered, his mottled gray skin flushing with anger. The governor predicted you would come yourself. Your father had the same misplaced sense of personal responsibility. And look where it got him, Derek interjected, stepping forward. Martyred and remembered, while history will forget Maxis as just another failed tyrant. Threll's eyes narrowed. The human speaks boldly for a member of such a young species, Hein. You lack the perspective of races who have witnessed millennia of galactic politics. Maybe that's our advantage, Derek replied. We haven't learned to accept corruption as inevitable. Without warning, Threll drew his sidearm and fired. Derek dove sideways, tackling Nayeli to safety as their team returned fire. The ensuing firefight was brutal but brief, Terran marksmanship and Navaran agility proving a lethal combination against Threll's guards. When the smoke cleared, Threll lay wounded but alive, his guards neutralized. Derek approached him, weapon trained steadily. Where's Maxis? Threll laughed, blood bubbling at his lips. Too late, human. The detonation sequence has already begun. Nayeli rushed to the control panel on the wall, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. He's right. 2-minute countdown, and it's locked with a genetic key. Can you override it? Not without Maxis's DNA, she replied grimly. A slow clapping sound drew their attention to the inner doorway, where Governor Maxis himself stood. Unlike Threll's military bearing, Maxis exuded the soft arrogance of a lifetime politician. Impressive, he said, his obsidian eyes glittering with malice. The daughter of Varan and her human pet have accomplished what the Galactic Council could not for 3 cycles, but it ends here. Deactivate the explosives, Derek demanded, his weapon shifting to target the governor. Or what? You'll kill me? Maxis smiled thinly. Then you guarantee this compound and everyone in it will be reduced to atoms. There's nowhere for you to go, Nayeli reasoned. The Galactic Council has your evidence. Terran forces control the city. Surrender with dignity. Dignity? Maxis spat. What dignity is there in surrender to lesser beings? Your father never understood. Some races are meant to rule, others to serve. As he spoke, Derek noticed Maxis's hand moving subtly toward a concealed weapon. With lightning reflexes honed through years of combat, Derek fired, not to kill, but to incapacitate. The governor crumpled with a cry of pain, clutching his bleeding hand. Nayeli moved swiftly, pressing the governor's wounded hand against the genetic scanner. The panel chimed in recognition, and the countdown froze at 23 seconds. Override accepted, announced the automated system. Lesser beings just saved your miserable life, Derek informed the governor as he secured him with restraints. Remember that during your trial. Within the hour, the compound was secured. Terran and Navaran forces had suffered minimal casualties, while Maxis's elite guard had either surrendered or fallen. Colonel Jones coordinated with the incoming Galactic Council peacekeepers, who arrived to take custody of Maxis, Threll, and their co-conspirators. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Derek found Nayeli on a balcony overlooking the city, where lights were beginning to flicker back to life as the crisis subsided. So, he said, joining her at the railing, what happens now, Lady Varan? She smiled at his use of her formal title. Now comes the hard part. Rebuilding. Healing. My people have lived in fear for 3 cycles. It will take time to restore their trust in leadership. They couldn't ask for a better leader, Derek said softly. Nayeli turned to face him fully, her violet eyes searching his. And what about you, Major Hawkins? Will you return to Earth now that your mission is complete? Derek reached out, tucking a strand of her white hair behind her ear. I think my mission changed the moment I found you in that street. The Navaran Restoration Council will convene tomorrow, she said, a hint of vulnerability in her voice. They'll formally recognize me as High Counselor, and they'll expect me to choose a consort. Any candidates in mind? He asked, his voice husky as he drew her closer. There's this human, she murmured, her hand sliding up his chest. Stubborn, brave to the point of recklessness, with an irritating habit of being right when everyone else is wrong. Sounds like a handful, Derek observed, his lips inches from hers. Oh, he is, she agreed, but he has certain qualities that make up for it. Such as? He sees people for who they are, not what they are. He fights for what's right, even when it's not convenient. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. And he's surprisingly adaptable to alien customs in the bedroom. Derek laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Perhaps the first truly carefree moment they'd shared. I accept your proposal, Lady Varan. I haven't proposed yet, Major Hawkins, she teased. Then what would you call it? A negotiation, she replied, rising on tiptoes to brush her lips against his. One I intend to conclude very thoroughly once we have privacy. Their kiss deepened, a promise of the future they would build together, a bridge between two worlds, forged in crisis but destined to flourish in peace. 3 months later, the Great Hall of Navara hosted a ceremony unprecedented in the planet's history. Representatives from a dozen worlds, including a significant Earth delegation, gathered to witness the formal union of High Counselor Nayeli Varan and her consort, former Major Derek Hawkins. The ceremony blended Navaran and human traditions, symbolizing the new era of cooperation that had blossomed from their unlikely meeting. As they exchanged vows beneath the ancient crystal dome, Derek reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a dusty street where he'd found a beaten woman left for dead, to this moment of triumph and hope. You're thinking too hard, Nayeli whispered as they processed through the cheering crowd afterward. Just appreciating how one split-second decision changed everything, he replied. If I'd been looking at my comm unit instead of the road that day, then some other human would have found me, she said with certainty. Your species has a remarkable tendency to be in the right place at exactly the right time. Is that a compliment or an observation? He asked with a raised eyebrow. Both? Her smile was radiant as she squeezed his hand. Humanity may be young in galactic terms, but you bring something the older races had forgotten. Passion, innovation, and an absolute refusal to accept injustice as inevitable. As they reached the balcony to greet the gathered citizens, Derek pulled her close for a moment of privacy before they faced the crowds. I love you, he said simply. Not as a Navaran, not as a High Counselor, just you, Nayeli. And I love you, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. The human who refused to leave me behind. Together they stepped into the sunlight, their union a testament to the unexpected paths that destiny sometimes takes, and to the universal truth that compassion, courage, and love can bridge even the vastest differences between stars.